His name is Gizmo. He is a blue Lacey, which is in the Labrador family. We actually have only had him for a few months now. I think we got him June 2nd of last year. We adopted him from an animal shelter in Houston, Texas. He had been given up the day before we got him. So he had been in the shelter for exactly 1 day. We wanted to find one that was older, like a senior dog, because we knew that they would probably have the roughest time getting adopted. And so we wanted to give it its best shot. Even if it means that they would die with us, at least they would die with a family. So we looked for the oldest dog there. And we needed it to be a dog that was ready to go home that day. So it already had to have its shots and it had to be neutered, because we were only going to be in Houston for 1 day before we had to come back to Thatcher. And so he was kind of our last resort. He just was there. I mean, we didn't even know he was there until we went on our last round around the shelter, and we saw that there was a dog named Gizmo and that he was 5. And he was one of the oldest dogs there. And so we asked the worker if we could meet him, and she said yes. Well, actually, no. She said that she had to see how he was first before we could meet him. So she went inside the kennel. She was petting him, and he was fine. He had been in there with another dog, so there wasn't any issues. And so we figured, well, we might as well take him home then, since he fit all of our criteria. He was one of the oldest ones there. He was ready to go home that day, and he was free. So that was a bonus. The other ones had some adoption fees, but he was free, so that was a bonus. And so we decided on him, and we took him home. He was really scrawny, but we thought maybe it was just because he was being abused. There's actually scars around his muzzle and around his neck that we believed were from abuse from his previous owners. And whenever we first got him, he was really scared of men. And so it took him a while to get used to my husband, but he got really attached to me really fast. And so he's always been my mama's boy. And yeah, I mean, we figured that he had probably been abused when he was younger, or in the family that he was in before. We didn't like the name Gizmo. We hated it. Neither of us appreciated the reference, because neither of us care about that movie. But that was already what he was used to, so we couldn't change it. And so we kept him as Gizmo. He was already used to it. He knew how to sit. He knew how to speak. He would stay by my side whenever I would let him go of his leash. He never had any accidents inside the house. He didn't chew up anything he wasn't supposed to, and so he was pretty well trained. And so we were really lucky, because neither of us really knew how to train a dog. And so we came back to Thatcher, and we decided to take him to the vet so that if anything were to happen, they would know who he was and have his records on file. So they took his weight, they measured him, gave him a basic test, and they went through his adoption papers, and it said in his adoption papers that he had heartworm. And they had told us that he was perfectly healthy, so we weren't prepared to take care of him. And I asked them, like, is there any way that they had already treated him and they just didn't put it on there? And the doctor said, or the vet, she said, if there's no treatment stated, then he probably still has it. So that was a big worry for us, because, I mean, we're in college. We just got back from a job in Georgia, and we just moved into a new house, so, you know, down deposit, rent, and then a dog. And so they ran a test on him, and they discovered that he does have heartworm, and that it was to the point where it was in his lungs. So if it didn't get treated, then he would die. And so that explained everything. He hadn't eaten since we adopted him, and he'd been really scrawny, and he had been pretty lethargic as well. But we figured maybe he was just old, or he was just like that. But once we realized that he was sick, I don't think he'd used the restroom either. Once we realized that he was sick, then it explained why he hadn't eaten, he hadn't used the restroom, and why he was the way he was. And so I went in and I spoke with the vet, and I tried to ask her if there was some kind of payment plan, or if there was some way for us to be able to afford his treatment, because it was over $500 at least just for the treatment, and he would need medicine after that. And she was so generous. She said, "We actually have a fund for shelter animals, and since he is a shelter dog, we will cover your treatment." And she asked me, "How much do you have on you right now?" And all I had was $100. And so she said, "Just give us your 100 and we'll take care of the rest." So for about 3 days, he underwent heartworm treatment, which from what I hear is really brutal. They have to give him 2 shots in 24 hours. And so they said sometimes they don't even make it through the treatment. So I was scared because even though I'd only had him for about a week and a half, I already knew that I would cry a lot. I would be really sad if something happened to him. And so I really, really wanted him to be okay. And I don't know, they forgot to call me or something, I don't know, but they did not let me know when his treatment was finally done. And so I called them and I asked them, "Hey, how's my dog? Is he okay?" And they're like, "Oh yeah, he's doing great. You'll probably be able to pick him up in a day or so." And I'm like, "Okay, I'm so glad, but that would have been nice to know beforehand so I wouldn't have been here crying." And so I finally went to go pick him up, and he was a completely new dog. Before he got his treatment, his tail wouldn't even go all the way up. And now that he's gotten his treatment, his tail goes all the way up and it curves. He's a lot more hyper now. He's so much more vocal now. He ate all of his food. He eats all of his food. Now he's just perfectly healthy and he's fine now. And they told us, for a while you're not going to be able to take him on runs because the heartworm, there's literally holes in his heart from the worms. And so he has to heal before he can really get his blood pumping. And so for about 6 weeks I had to turn him into a couch potato. And so he stayed at home. Both of us did. We stayed home. He didn't get to go on runs or walks or anything. He went out to use the restroom and he would come back inside. And then once he finally was healed, we took him to the lake. We took him on runs. And now he's healthy and he's happy and he's really active. He's a good running dog. And so he's just been a really loyal companion. He's very protective of those of us that he cares about. My husband will sometimes pretend to fight me. And so he'll playfully punch me. My husband will playfully punch me and he'll start growling. If my husband starts creeping up at me like that, then Gizmo will start barking at him and he'll try to lunge at him. And he's never actually hurt him because he knows that it's his owner, but he's like, "Try me, I'll do it. Fight me, hurt my mom, see what happens." And so Gizmo is really protective. He does the same with our roommates, namely Larry. He's very protective of Larry. I call Larry the stepmom. And so, Gizmo's just, he's really good with people now, which is good. He's a great dog. I love him. He's my baby.
What's your favorite thing to do with your dog?
I love to make him speak. Come on. Sit. Good boy. Speak. 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 Good boy.